Hello and welcome. Francis here. Thank you for coming back to my channel. If this is your first time here, I bid thee welcome. There's a subscribe button and a bell below if you want to be notified as to when I upload more content. So this presentation, and I do have a slideshow, which is why I am doing this in my library as opposed to at my sacred space, is going to be on Magick and the aura. But before I get started, I just want to acknowledge that I'm coming to you from Ghana country, and as such, I acknowledge the Ghana people of the Adelaide Plains as the custodians of this land, and I acknowledge their elders past, present, and emerging. So I just want to share my screen. Am I sharing my screen? I am now, because we're going to be talking about Magick and the auric field. These two things may not seem at first to be interconnected. However, I believe that they are. In understanding the esoteric sciences, metaphysics, hermetic principles, etc., these things will actually not only enhance your magical practice, your craft practice, but also add a different layer, a deeper layer to those old unanswerable questions that we all seem to have since time immemorial. Why am I here? What is the meaning of life? Etc., etc. Now, a bit of a disclosure, I have long been interested in metaphysics and esoteric sciences. I see them enhancing my craft practice. I also see them reflected in the bigger picture. The wider scheme of things gives me the deeper understanding of the sense of the other. And this is probably one of my, should we say, irks? Yeah, very more quietly. When it comes to modern interpretations of the craft, is that a lot today tends to focus around the immediate, the here and now, the spell casting, to get rid of or mean problems, issues, bumps in someone's road, so to speak. And to me, it seems very egocentric because it's very almost blinkered approach, where the concept of taking a step back and looking at things from a wider perspective, even a more higher soul conscious level, is often received, to say, not as positively as one would hope. It's almost like the need or the urgency is to fix the problem now, and it's usually someone else's fault. Someone else is the antagonist, and the person posing the query is often usually deemed the innocent victim. Yeah, I can get very cynical. But all that aside, regardless of how we perceive the craft to be, one thing that really can't be refuted is the fact that everything is energy. And I've mentioned this previously, and I think in the video about cursing, and if I can figure out how to link something, it'll be either above or below. So we're all effectively energetic beings made up of atoms and molecules and neutrons and electrons. So I've got a bit of a scratchy throat this afternoon. Protons that are vibrating all at different levels and rates. And it's this vibration that actually creates the energy. And this energy gets transmitted. So this is really sort of, I don't know, basic science, 101 science. Everything around of us is made up of this energy concept. Whether it's another living sentient being or an innate object, all are made out of molecules, atoms, neutrons vibrating. And as I said, this is the energy that we transmit when we do energetic healing, like Seishum or Reiki, Palawa. It's the energy that is known by different names around the world and throughout time. We call it life force, prana, chi, K. It's been recorded in ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs, and you can also find it in earlier yogic teachings. So both Eastern and Western philosophies talk about this energy. So we are receptors, we receive as well as producing this energy. And again, it all depends on how open and sensitive or familiar we are as to the energy that other people also project, and how much of that we take on board that actually also infiltrates our auric field, which surrounds our body. So as you can tell, it's already a huge subject. There's lots of rabbit holes to dive down. I'm trying to keep this a little bit sort of craft or magical related, which I don't know how I'll go, but I personally see a connection between the two, between Magick and the auric field. After all, they are both parts of esoteric sciences, and they can also be found in other teachings. In particular, I'm just going to scoot ahead to a couple of slides that I know I've got here. There we go. In particular, the Kabbalistic tree of life. And I'll talk a little bit more about this, in particular, this version of the tree, which is called the lightning flash, a little bit later on. But this is, in particular, one way of utilizing this teaching in relation to the auric field. And then also, you've got the Eastern teachings that sort of include chakras as well. We've got more sort of New Agey or Theosophical Society teachings that talked about the bodies as well as the field. And I've got some slides here in relation to all these bodies around our physical self. So we're not just this meat bag, basically. There's more to us. We're made up of energy. This meat bag that we see is because it's the most densest of this energy, and the molecules are very, very close together. So in the West, we've sort of lost a lot of this teaching in relation to these energetic fields, but so we can find glimpses of it, in particular in the Kabbalah. These different interpretations. So what I'm sharing is just sort of based on what I have been taught. And as we know, the human body is made up of energy. The aura is a container of this energy, and effectively it keeps it in one place. Also, it doesn't stray too far. And the human body is where it's most concentrated. Most teachings have 7 layers, even though this diagram on the right has 12. And the closest, the more dense, closest to the physical body, and they expand out depending on teachings. It's often depicted as being egg-shaped around the physical self, but energy vibrates and it moves. And I think the best description I've seen is on a very hot summer's day, if you look across a road, the asphalt, you'll see that shimmer. You can also see it down at the beach. You'll see the sort of haze just above the sand. That's what is like our energy field. This is what our energy field does. It's like this sort of hazy, and it moves from the different layers out. So it isn't distinct sort of boundaries. That this is our etheric body, and this is our emotional body, and this is our astral body. It sort of blends into it, and it moves depending on mood or energy around us, how we're feeling, the foods that we've eaten, our exercise, night, day, sunlight, winter, summer. Whole lot of elements can affect our auric field. If you go to art galleries and look at some of the old paintings, especially the more Christian ones, you'll see people with halos. That has been, excuse me, interpreted as auric field. This is how they saw the auric field back within the Renaissance. Now, I've got a bit of a scratchy throat. It's really annoying me at the moment. Oh, no, it's not COVID. So our auric field is expansive. However, the more dense, close-knit we live with other people, in our physical environment, we can pull our aura in, or it merges really close to our physical self, which can add to a whole range of other issues. And part of me wonders if this is not one of the reasons for, say, anxiety and depression. It's this sort of like almost claustrophobic, but as we're living closer and closer together, and we're losing that ability to expand, because if we expand our aura, we can take in the energy of other people as well, which means depending on our degree of sensitivity, we can pick up on other people's emotions and feelings, as well as the collective consciousness, which we can see in this diagram here, or this little statement just saying that our energetic field, which is our aura, responds to trauma and healing energies, love and emotions. More so when people are intimate together, that relationship busts up, we still attach to them in some way. This is the energetic cords, usually for the heart center. And I know I'm jumping around. I said this PowerPoint is actually for something else. There has been a lot of work done in relation to the magnetic field in relation to the heart center. So this is really a really big study. And it's from here where we will find more cords, and also the lower chakra, especially if we are more intimate with people. And for women, because we are, should I say, perceived as a receptor, we are almost like a chalice. A yoni receives. When it comes to moving away from relationships in particular, so when there's been like abuse, we need to work on freeing up those lower chakras, and as well as our heart. So it's because we are very receptive to the energy of other people, and this is all our auric energies, or the auric energies of other people. We're also made up of bodies as well as auric fields, so it can get a little bit confusing, and because there's a lot of overlay in the teaching. So if you see like in this picture or this diagram, though they say etheric bodies, they're also talking about in the auric field, or the layers of the auric field, and the different levels, or how far distances they are out from the physical self. So I'm just looking at my notes here. One of the best ways to sort of like heal, expand our auric field is getting out in nature. Whether it's have the opportunity to go hiking in the forest or the woodlands, or whether the only nature that we've got is our backyard or the local park or footy field or something like that. Getting grounded, taking our shoes off, walking on the ground, sitting with our feet on the ground down at the beach, anything like that actually helps with our own energetic field as well. In particular, it helps with our grounding, which has a flow-on effect. And I'll talk a little bit more about auric protection in a moment. In this picture, it's quite interesting because it does show the auric sort of like perfect and egg shape, and that's extremely unusual. And it takes a lot of practice for it to get that perfect egg shape. Usually it sort of shapes or follows the human body. And as we can see on the right, it has bumps and it merges depending on our moods, depending on our illnesses, our thought patterns, whatever. All these things affect our aura, including our diet, depression, our moods, trauma, other things like medication, excessive drug taking, alcohol. All of this can impact upon our aura, and if we have a history of bad diet, drug taking, etc., it can actually damage our aura. And these holes here can appear, not just weak spots, but actually holes in the aura. And depending on the extent of the damage, may or may not be able to be rectified. So what these holes or energy tears do is allow other energies in. So we're more sort of like receptive to picking up on other energies that not necessarily are our own, or we want to accept them into our auric field. So it does take a little bit more due diligence to ensure that our auric field is protected and strong, and that we don't just feel this depletion of energy, because it could actually be through a weak spot or a tear in our auric field. Just looking at my notes because I'm completely off track. Okay, if I go to this image here, this is the Kabbalistic tree of life. So I said it's very similar to working with the auric field, in that at the far reaches of the aura, where we have like the seed thought, and we bring into manifestation. This is where some teachings say this is how illnesses appear in the physical body, is that it starts off with a thought or something, or a concept that gets picked up into our auric field, and if we don't do anything about it, it can manifest into the physical self. This is a similar process to the Kabbalistic tree of life, where we have sort of like, this is Keitha, the divine self, it's beyond thought, and that thought, that idea, as it goes along all the paths through the Saifara down to Malkuth at the bottom, this is material realming. This is the manifestation here. So this is what can be affected with our auric field, is that the seed thought can materialize way out beyond our consciousness or even subconsciousness. It's been picked up, and it can materialize eventually into our physical realm, our physical body, if we don't do anything about it. One good way of doing something about it is auric protection. Now, there's a whole range of means and methods that we could actually do to strengthen our aura. One in particular, if I go back to the tree of life, it's very simple. It's something that could be done in your shower. It can be done on the bus. It can be done anywhere, even driving. Maybe not when you're driving because you need concentration. But you visualize above your head, like here at Keitha, a sphere of golden light. You can have the light any color you want to, but I just do golden light. And as I inhale and exhale, I begin to visualize that golden light coming down the front of my body, expanding out, covering me, down to my feet, and then it sort of goes under my feet. And as I continue the inhale, exhale process, it comes up the back. And where it sort of joins at the side, it's almost like you got those heat sealers that seals up there, till it comes back up to source again. And I am in my little heat sealed bag of protective energy. With practice, it could take, I don't know, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes to visualize that properly. With practice, you can get it down to under a minute, or even a couple of seconds, depending on how quick you are, or the type of visualization. And you can use it in, say, the shower. So as the water comes out of the faucet and it's running over your body, it's purifying, is what it does. It's cleansing, it's moving away all the negativity. And as the globules move down, it's going to be forming a protective field of light or energy around you that seals you. Or if you've seen Quicksilver or Mercury, which is just a big globule, you can visualize that coming down and sinking over you, but made up of this protective light, silver, gold, blue, whatever rocks your boat, basically. The more you work on that visualization, the more, or the quicker, just trying to find where the cursor is, there I am, the quicker you can put it around you, especially if you're going into more sort of hostile environments, maybe presenting a board paper at a conference or a meeting that you know is not going to be very well received, dealing with family members where there's always been animosity, maybe just dealing with people in general going out into the world, because our world seems to be very negative at the moment. Well, it's not just at the moment, it's been negative for the last number of years. It's becoming increasingly negative, I think. And that can be fed into, say, the media that's focusing on all the negative stuff. But that's another rabbit hole to fall down. So all of this impacts us, which in turn impacts our magic. So looking after our own sort of like energetic health, taking responsibility for us, also means that we take responsibility as to what energy from other people we allow into our own area, our own energetic field as well, when our energies merge, because they do merge. They're not just like boundaries around us. Doing exercises like the Tower of Light, we can actually put up a boundary, but it's something that we need to maintain on a regular basis and also take responsibility for. And I think that's the main thing, is that we need to take responsibility for our own energy, because it may not always be somebody else's fault. It could actually be us. And we have heard, I just go back a little bit, energetic vampires. We may find that we are actually the energetic vampire without even realizing it. So to know an energetic vampire is either consciously or unconsciously aware that they can, once they're plugged into the matrix, into the circuit, so to speak, you will get all the energy that you need. However, if your energy or your chakra wheels, your energy is blocked somewhere, this is where people go searching externally. When they also get caught up in aspects of themselves, I also think, this is just my 2 cents, of this fixation on operative magic. We are limiting our perception on the wider, so we're cutting ourselves up in our and the reactions or the consequences of our magic for us, and the flow-on effect down the line. We're sort of like trying to distance ourselves, but we're all part of a bigger whole. And this is where energetic vampires come in, is that for one reason or another, they forget or don't want to admit, or they get so self-absorbed that they distance themselves from their reactions, of the consequences of their own reactions. And we too can need to take responsibility if we are the receiver. If we find our energy being sucked or out of the room, so to speak, we need to take up a little bit more responsibility when it comes to blocking our aura or strengthening our aura with something like that. I was going to say Tree of Life, but there's various exercises in the Tree of Life, but also the Tower of Light and those similar exercises as well. The more that we focus on our visualization, and in particular, like with our protection of our auric field, this actually helps to crystallize our auric field. And I like to add in right at the end, saying that I don't want like a suit of armor around me. Then again, I suppose it depends on the situation, but I always say something like a little sort of disclaimer that if the energy is of benefit for me from another person, yes, allow it in. Otherwise, I'm quite happy to have big walls up around me. But you can appear standoffish or, you know, aloof if you sort of encase yourself in a sort of square box sort of thing, so you're not allowing other people's energy in. It's more about too understanding that we are part of this ebb and flow and not getting stuck. And this is what happens: a lot of our energy gets stuck because we sort of just focus on one thing and we forget, again, as I said, the flow-on effect, that we're all part of a greater plan and we all are responsible. We all do manipulate energy, and when we do manipulate the energy, it also comes with a degree of responsibility. So I'm getting a little bit carried away here. Just to remember that everything is energy, including our thoughts. And this is what we were talking about right at the beginning. Our thoughts are energy. Therefore, our thoughts can impact upon the strength or weakness of our own auric field and also the auric fields of other people. Our energy and our aura is our responsibility, nobody else's. We might not be able to prevent circumstances, situations in our life, other people that we have to deal with, but we can energetically protect our auric field and lessen their energetic impact upon us. That I think is a very important thing. And in other words, we are taking self-responsibility of how we react to situations. And within contemporary witchcraft, that is one of the most important lessons, is that it is a path of self-responsibility. Oh, it's one of the last page of some, but you can find me on my other sites. So that is about the magic and the aura. I can go on longer. I probably have gone on a bit longer than what I wanted to, but just sort of giving you a little bit of an understanding as to its use and impact within contemporary witchcraft. And yeah, without going down too many rabbit holes, I think that should be enough. So I hope you're well. Blessings.